So good morning, dear students, teachers, educators, and the artists who are here, who have joined us. For all of those who know us, we are the Performing Arts Department of the Heritage Experiential Learning School. The school itself is committed to an experiential project-based pedagogy and integrated curriculum, and since its inception has established a formidable reputation for itself as a progressive, innovative school in the times that it has been operational. As most of you are aware, we have started off our 16th annual Art Fest, which is a celebration of arts, providing a rich and unique experience to students for an overall growth in the visual and performing arts. During this time, our department partners with Visual Art Department, and we hold a variety of events like expositions, workshops of different disciplines, seminar, concerts, and even intra-school competition. Due to the ongoing pandemic, we have shifted our Art Fest to an online platform, and that too with the wholehearted support and love from the school and the various other authorities. For today's workshop, which is the history of theatre, we have our guest Vaishali. If I can just request Vaishali to come. Hi.
Hello.
Before we start, I would like to share little insight about our host. So Vaishali Chakravarty is a theatre actor and one of India's leading drama and life skill educator. She has received her formative training under the Manipuri physical theatre master, Sabitri Devi, and late Hensnam Kanayalal. She has been formally trained in speech and drama, and she has attended the Shakespeare Summer School at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London and completed the Professional Development Program in Drama and Education at the University of Dublin. Vaishali is the founder of Joy of Drama, which was established in 2015, an organization which designs and conducts drama-based life skill training program for children, young adults, and teachers. She is one of the pioneers of teaching drama online in India. She regularly conducts how to teach drama online training programs for teachers. She has created successful digital platforms like Method in Madness to help teachers and parents interact and learn from the experts on child development and education. To add to her expertise, she is an academic consultant with Trinity College London. She has designed and conducted teacher training programs at the NDMC school across New Delhi, and she also works with children with special needs. So without taking much time, I would hand over the space to Ms. Vaishali.
Thank you, Mansi. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's going to be very odd because I'll be talking and I won't be able to see any one of you. But I definitely want you to keep chatting on the chat box. Should you have any query, anything that you would like to share, any trivia that you already know. So a big hi to everybody. I just want to know your names. So if you could just type in your names on the chat and say a hi, I'll be very glad because we're just a handful of us and it's a good thing that we are a handful of us. So if you could just write your name and send me a hi and to know that all of you are there listening. Hi. Okay, Samira, thank you. All right, so Mansi has given a little bit of an introduction about what I do and what I don't. But let me tell you, I love theatre. And I started practicing theatre when I was still in school in my 12th grade. I don't know how many of you are in 12th grade right now, but that's, I think, one of the best grades to be in school. Because when you're in 12th, you are almost an adult and you understand life a little bit better than the rest of your schoolmates. So I started doing theater in 12th. But when I was doing theater, I was all about, performing on stage. And I'm sure all of you love performing, right? Give me a yes if you do love performing on stage. Who does not? Yes, Akshay, thank you. We all love performing on stage, and stage gives us a kind of a different kind of energy. We transform into somebody else, we transport somewhere else, and that is why we keep doing theater. But when I was doing theater in school and college at the university level, I never had actually been taught the history of theater. I was just doing it for the love of theater. I just knew one kind of stage or two kinds of performance areas. One was proscenium, which is a stage, audience in front and backdrop at the back. And the other one was street theater, where the audience was all around. And we would perform in the center of the space, of the performing space. So those were the only two things that we knew. Nothing was taught to us when we were growing up in school, because we did not have a drama department. We did not have a robust performing arts department. And I think all children who have joined us, from the Heritage School, you are really, really incredibly blessed. I can't tell you how blessed you are to have a performing arts department doing this for you. Because had I known about the history of theater, I wouldn't have gone and done an economics honors. I would have not wasted my time there. I would have directly gone and done theater. So this is the first stepping stone, history of theater into the world of theater. Now, I want to know from anybody, whoever over here is ready to chat and let us know, what do you know about history of theater? When do you think theater started in the world? Any idea? Any idea? And this is going to be an interactive session. All right. So Samira and Akshat, you seem to be responding. Any idea, when did theater begin? Any idea? Even the teachers over here who are watching, just take a guess, take a random guess. I'm not looking for a right answer over here. Any guess, when did theater begin? 6th century. Oh, 5th century. Pradipto, Aradhya. Okay. I think it's always been around. Stuti, 7th century. Yes. 5th century. All right. BC? I hope that's BC, or what are you talking about? AD, CE, or BC? BC. All right, Samira. You're there, bang on. Okay. But let me take you to the origins of theater. Okay. Now, does anybody know about this thing? What is this? Can you take a guess? Cave art, yeah. Yes, Aradhya, you're right. An ancient painting, you're right, Samira. A cave painting, very good, Stuti. Cave painting, you're right, you're right. Now I'll stop sharing. All right. Now, you saw the cave painting, right? Now, why do you think people painted in the caves? What was the requirement to paint? To express themselves, do you think? Is that the reason they painted? Anybody to share stories, Mansi? Great. To express, communicate. Ankita, you're asking. That's a nice way to put it. You put a little question mark. To share their experience, to share experience. Yes, Shia. Yes, you're right. To share experiences. But they chose to paint it. And that's the first format of documented storytelling that we have in our species is painting, cave painting. And that kind of instilled the whole idea of performance. So they would paint everything that they saw when they would go for hunting, and they would perform everything that they did when they went for hunting. So I'm going to share screen again. I'm going to keep doing that, guys. So if you can see this photograph, this is taken somewhere in Africa. Most probably these are from the Zulu tribe. And what these men are doing is they are enacting a hunting event that they had probably in the morning to their probably girlfriends or wives back home. So that's an audience you can see sitting, and this is the group of performers. So to be precise, we really don't know when this began. We have documented that theater formally began in the West in the 7th century BC, but that's West, okay? That's the documented West, but the undocumented all over the world is completely unknown. So theater is when there is a performer and then there is an audience. So you cannot do theater without an audience. When you're doing theater without an audience, you're actually doing drama. Okay, so a drama is played. When the drama is played in front of an audience, it becomes theater. So am I doing theater right now? Because I am performing, I'm talking to you live at the moment, and you have gathered here as an audience. So how many of you think that this is theater? Is this theater? Come on. Yes, 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 yes. Theater is everywhere. So the one who had said theater has been around, you are right, miss or mister, whoever answered that. Theater has been around since we have gained this idea of storytelling, that we can tell stories. And that's why storytelling is also one of the oldest form of theater in the world. Okay, so let's go back to the history of theater. Now, you guys said 7th century theater and 5th century theater. Fine. What do you think of when you think 7th century theater? Anybody? The oldest form of theater? Anyone? Anyone? Where was it? Which country? Which country? Which country? Greece! Voila. Now I'm talking about documented theater, guys. Okay, there could be lot of undocumented theater practices that have happened around the world before Greece happened, and I'm sure that happened because we were doing in India, we were doing theater in 3rd century BC. So I think there is a lot that has been done and written and researched on. But today we're going to talk about what we usually do at a very basic level, you know, because after this you can go and do your own research, but this is very basic. Yeah, we are going to look at some presentations, so don't worry about that. Okay, so let's look at a video, okay? And let's see what's happening here. I don't think the sound is coming through. All right. Okay, it's okay. But did you see? What did you see? You saw actors on stage, and what were the actors wearing? What were the actors wearing? Quickly. Pradipto, Samaira, Shaurya. Props? Were they wearing props? What were they wearing? Costumes, yes. And mask. Thank you. Thank you, Akshat Aradhya. Mask, Pradipto, yes, mask. Masks were very, very important during the days of Greek theater. I'm talking about 7th century BC Greek theater. So I'm going to go back and share my screen over here, and let's look at ritual myth theater. Now, ritual myth theater is something which we found not just in Greece, not just in India, not just in Africa, but all over the world. We'll come to the mask theatre a little bit later because it has its origins in ritualistic or mythological theatre. Now, how many of you know about Greek mythological characters? Any Greek mythological character that you can think of quickly? Can you just type in a Greek mythological character? And a Hindu mythological character. Oedipus, Hercules, yes. Hermes, yes. Zeus, yeah. Arjun, very good. Any other mythological character? Arjun is a semi-mythological character. Athena, yes. Rama, yes. Tantalus. Oh, you guys seem to be abreast with Greek mythology. Any Indian mythological characters that you know of? Percy Jackson. Yes, that's a mythological character. To Indra, very good. These are gods. So gods are very mythical. So mythological characters could be gods. Good. Sita, Krishna. Good. All right. So myth was born out of ritual. So yesterday we had Ram Navami, and everybody was doing this ritual of doing a puja, and that's called a ritual. And usually rituals came together when you had to bring a community together. So puja becomes a ritual. Storytelling also becomes a ritual. When we practice this, and rituals are practiced every day, like our mothers do puja every day, right? During those 9 days of Ram Navami, every day there was some kind of a different kind of a puja. Now, this is not just to bring a kind of a regularity in your work, but also bring people together, because during pujas, everybody would come in. So that's where the ritual starts. Now, if you practice this ritual daily, this ritual will become something like real, right? And that's what we call superstition. So ritual becomes real when it is practiced every day. And that becomes then a myth. So the myth could be, okay, if you wear red on the day of Ashtami, then you become very lucky. So that becomes a myth. Okay. So ritual becomes myth. And then theater can become, performed, keeping that myth into practice and doing that ritual. So ritualistic theater is something that people practice a lot. If you see, does anybody know of the Nautanki culture in India, where they perform on stage? Anyone who knows about the Nautanki culture? I'll come to you, Shaurya, on that question. But did anybody see Ram, Sita, the whole play happening in the form of Rama? Yes, Ramayan. Yes, good. So that Nautanki culture comes from ritual. Okay, so ritual becomes myth, and myth becomes theater. Now let's go and let's look at the most famous thing. Anybody knows about this picture? 5 points to the person who knows about this photograph. What is this photograph about? This photograph or this painting is of something called Samudramanthan. Okay, and this is a big event that had happened in the world of myth. So this is churning of the mind, actually, which got shown or metaphorized into this kind of a painting. And then people started doing plays based on this. So if you ask your granddads and grandmothers, they will be able to tell you about the plays that they saw when they were growing up, when they were little ones, about Samudramanthan. And that's very, very old. Okay, this is like, I don't know, it could be 3th century, 2nd century, we don't know the date. Now let's look at ancient theater. So ancient theater is when we come into the Greek and the Romans. Okay, so ancient theater consisted of 2 things. Okay, so one, definitely we had our actors and our audience members, but there was this other thing which they, yeah, that's creepy. I know, it looks very creepy. They had masks. Okay. Now, there are two reasons why they are wearing masks. What do you think? Why were they wearing masks? Why didn't they show their faces? I mean, people were expressive then as well. Why do you think they were wearing masks? Anyone? Anyone? Why did Greek people have to wear masks? Good, Samira. So that I can play multiple characters, right? I can play multiple characters and I can switch from character to character uh, without, without any trouble, without any pain. So character switching is something that they would practice using masks. Now, there were three kinds of comedies, plays that they would do: tragedy, comedy, and satire. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop here. How many of you know of a comedy play and a tragedy play? Give me a comedy play's name and a tragedy play's name. Anyone? Yes, Darsh, you're right. If they went wrong, they will not go down. Perfect. That's a very good. The Tempest. What is it? Is it a comedy or a tragedy? Tragedy, Romeo and Juliet. Yes. It's a tragic comedy. Actually, became more into tragedy. It started as a comedy. All right. Anything else? Any Greek play that comes to your mind, which is a tragedy? Any Greek play that comes to your mind that is a tragedy? We're talking Greek theater over here. Yes, many. Yeah, sure. Yeah, give me one quickly. Now, what you just saw, the clip was from the play Oedipus. Okay. And how many of you know about Oedipus? Trojan War, yeah? Trojan War. That's a tragedy. So the Greek would play tragedies, they would play comedies, and then they would play satire plays. Now, there is a whole story or history behind why the Greeks became so famous for their theater. Now, in the 5th century, or from 5th to 7th century, they would do this great grand theater competition. It was a festival, but it was a competitive festival. Theater was, taken as a sport over there. This was called the Dionysus Festival. So Dionysus was the goddess or the god, we don't know, it's unisex, of theater. So they had theater competitions which would run for months, and great theater playwrights would come and present their plays. So it was some kind of a ritual for them, Samira, you're right. This is a question, this is a research question actually, and you could go ahead and do your research on this. That was doing theater ritual. If you ask me, I have been practicing theater for almost 20 years now. And when you practice something for such a long time, it actually becomes a ritual. So if I don't perform or I don't read a monologue, or if I don't do anything which is performative every day, I feel that something is missing inside. So it could be a ritual. So Samara, you're right in asking, was it a ritual for them or not? Dionysus. So Shaurya, this was Dionysus, and they would, conduct this amazing festival where thousands of Greeks would come and watch. And you know how they judged a performance? They judged a performance by what the audience thought was the best, and they did not get special judges to come and mark them. The play that got the biggest hootings and the biggest claps and the biggest applause would win. So Oedipus Rex, the play that you just saw a little part of it, won one of these festivals, one of these festivals during the 7th century. And it became very, very famous. Now, that was a tragedy. Then they would have comedy plays as well. But comedies would not be that many, as compared to tragedy. So tragedy was more for the sophisticated people, but comedy was more for the general, cross people who would come drink beer and call names and make a ruckus out of everything, but they would love comedy. Now there was something else which was called the satire plays. Now satire is actually not the satire that we think, but it definitely comes, the origin of satire that we know, S-A-T-I-R-E, comes from S-Y-T-R-E, which is actually a being. Let me just show you. This is how a satire looks. It's half goat and half man. All right. This is half goat and half man over here. Now, they would do very rude comedies. Okay, they would be very rude, and by rude I mean they could go to the extent of saying obscene dialogues, making faces at the audience, calling audience names, and they would also start fights which could become very, very serious on stage. So these are satire plays that they would have during the Dionysus festivals. But these were again for the stature of in the class of society at the lowest stature, where they would play these plays. All right, so let's move forward. And this is again a scene which is inscribed in tile on a wall actually, and this is a scene from a play, a satire play. Now, this is a trivia I wanted to share. Bad actors who forgot lines were punished, such as death. I know Mansi is your teacher, and what punishment would Mansi give to children who forgot their lines? Definitely not death, right? But Greek theater and Roman theater in those times were extremely, extremely competitive. So if you would forget your lines, you are dead anyway, right? So you cannot improvise. You cannot improvise your lines. Because when you're doing theater, theater is not drama, as I told you. So in theater, an actor is expected to memorize every word, every punctuation mark, every rhythm that the verse or the prose contains. So if you forget your lines, you are really severely punished, because a lot of money would ride on these productions. People would actually spend a lot of money on these productions. And there was no prize money, guys. There was no prize money. You would win, but only for glory. So people would invest a lot of money into it just for glory. Now, if you forget your lines there, you're definitely dead meat. All right. So that's the harshest punishment that you would get, death. But it was very interesting, because then they would have the best of the town. The people with the best memory, the people with the best kind of body posture, because you remember they would wear masks. So your face is gone, right? So the other part of your body which would express is your body. And in Greek theater, it's very funny that there would be only 3 actors. Okay, there would be only 3 actors acting, and the rest of the actors would become a chorus. Okay, so what you saw over here was actually chorus. I'll just share it again. I don't know why the sound is not there. But if you look at these guys, this is the chorus. Chorus is a group of actors who are saying and speaking on behalf of the society. So they all are in one rhythm, who either support the main protagonist over here. If you saw here, this was the king, Oedipus, and they either support or they disagree. And they are speaking the same thing. They're saying the same thing. So the chorus becomes the narrative by the society. The chorus represents society. And there could only be 12 actors in a chorus. So this is Oedipus Rex. It is free, found. You can watch it on YouTube. It's free to watch, and it's an amazing, amazing play. The actor who is playing Oedipus over here, this guy over here in the yellow costume, he's one of the finest Greek theater actors and Shakespearean theater actor in the world, actually. So please go ahead and take a look at Oedipus Rex and watch it. Okay, so we are back. And now let's look at Roman theater. Now, do you know Romans captured Greeks? Anybody knows about the history of Roman invasion into Greece and Romans capturing them? Any history student over here? Yes. Okay. When did that happen, Ankita? If you could just tell us that. Okay. All right. Welcome to Rome and Roman theater. But before that, let's go to Sanskrit theater. Do you know which play this painting belongs to? Anybody? Anybody? Any adult over here can also answer. Radha, Darsh is guessing, not Radha, Darsh. Who is this famous character? Okay, I'll give you a hint. This is a character from Kalidasa's very famous. Yes, you got it right, Pradipto. He has given me the answer. This is Shakuntala, and this is from a scene from the play Abhigyanam Shakuntalam. So by Kalidasa. So we come to Sanskrit theater. Now, when the Greeks were performing there, we were performing Sanskrit theater over here, and we had started way back in 3rd century BC. It is said that Natya Shastra was written between 3rd and 7th century BC. They say that somebody called Bharat Muni wrote it, but Bharat Muni could be just an idea, you know, not a real person who wrote it. Now, this is something, a scene from a Kutiyattam performance. How many of you know about Kutiyattam? Anybody who can tell me about Kutiyattam? How many of you know Kathakali? Let me ask, that would be easier for you to say. How many of you know about Kathakali? And where is Kathakali from? Yeah, Samara is into dance. She knows it. I do. Yes, Kerala. Very good. It's from Kerala. So Kutiyattam is the oldest form of theater in India. And they would sit and do this, you know, on a stool. It's still prevalent. There is a group who's still practicing Kutiyattam in Kerala. And Kapila Venu is the actress who actually is passing on this tradition. She's working very hard. You can look up her on the internet. Her name is Kapila Venu. This gentleman over here is Kapila Venu's great grandmaster. So G Venu is Kapila Venu's father, and he is Kapila G Venu's master. So in Sanskrit theater or in Indian ancient theater, we would use something called Natya Shastra, okay? Because everything is Shastra over here in India. All of us know that. There are lots of Vedas and Upanishads and everything written. So Natya Shastra is a codified book on performing arts, how to perform, how to act, how to stage, how to watch even. Like I mean, if you read Natya Shastra, you will also get to know how to be a good audience and watch theater. Now, let me ask, this is a very interesting game that we can play over here. So now you can see all these women making faces, okay? And this is a combination of rasa and bhava. I'll talk to you about that a little later. But tell me, the woman right at the center, what is her rasa or her emotion? What do you think her emotion is? What is she feeling? this person. Surprise, anger, confusion, anger merged with confusion. Okay. Suspicion, not bad. Anger, okay. There are many faces that look like anger. Wonder, okay, Pradipto. Bhaybheet, all right. Scared, fear, okay, all right. That's great. Now that you see her, what does it make you feel? What is it making you feel? I'm not asking about her emotion. What is it making you feel? Do you feel like laughing, looking at her, or are you scared looking at her? It makes me feel curious, Samira is saying. Mansi is saying scared, uneasy. Yes. Sia is saying she's creepy. She's creeping you out. Stuti is saying uneasy. Creeped out. Very good. Very good. Now, guys, this is a very, very important thing everybody should know. The emotion that you play, according to Bharat Muni and the Navrasa, the emotion that you display is not the emotion that is evoked. Okay? So the rasa is basically the emotion that is evoked in us as the audience, and the bhava is the emotion that they show. Okay? Am I clear about it? Give me a yes if I'm clear about it. Okay, if you've got it. Yes. So the audience is supposed to evoke, an emotion. An emotion has to be evoked in the audience, and that emotion that it gets evoked in the audience is actually rasa. And what you as an actor produce is bhava. All right. And the rasa is never the bhava. So if I'm being very angry, then you might just feel like laughing. Okay. It depends on the context completely. So it is very important that the audience also goes through a series of emotions to enjoy the performance. Right? Okay, so rasa and bhava, and there's a huge collection of papers that you can look at, which talks about rasa and bhava, and you'll really enjoy it. Those who are into dance, like Bharatanatyam or Kuchipudi, or any dance like Odissi, if anybody is there that you know who's involved into these traditional classical dances, then please go ahead and ask them. This is a foolproof theory. It works so well, I can't tell you. So the emotions, the story of emotions, and we have 9 emotions over here, guys. We used to have 8, but then we have 9. We'll not go into details of that because we'll lose out on time. So let's quickly go back and let's look at what do we have as part of Sanskrit theatre. So now if we have Rasa Bhava, these are the kinds of plays that we used to have: Nataka, Prakarana, Dima, and Anka. So Nataka would be a 5 to 10 act play, and this would be written particularly in Sanskrit, which was a more sophisticated language than the Prakrit Bhasha, which is which we usually, is the regular language that is spoken by people, lay people. But Sanskrit would only be spoken by a certain class of people. So Nataka would be for Sanskrit speaking and listening audience. Prakarana would be again a 5 to 10 act play for lay people like us. And Dima would be a 16 act play, and Anka would be a 1 act play. So these are the types of plays that we would have. We still have 1 act plays, which are called Ankas, which go on right now. I mean, we still do Ankas in modern Indian theatre. Now let's go into medieval theatre. And here we look at the Romans. Okay, so when the Romans, yes, Dash, thank you for that trivia. Dash is saying that Prakrit was used by people living in Ashoka's kingdom. Yes, you're right there, Dash. You got your history pretty well. Good. All right. Now, the Romans, what they did, once they captured Greece, Greece was a very abundant country. So they really, the Romans didn't have to do anything, they would just lie around, just chill, they didn't have to work because the food was available. They didn't have to do anything, they could just be, drinking and making merry all the time. Now, when you have so much of time and you don't know what to do, what do you do? What do you do, guys, when you have everything served right on your table and you have absolutely nothing to do? What do you do? Netflix and chill? How many of you do that? Look for entertainment. Yes, art and craft. Okay. Enjoy and code, read a book. Yes, we entertain ourselves. And that's what the Romans wanted to do. So what they did was they took up all these great Greek plays and they translated them as it is, and they copied them as it is from the Greek theater into Roman theater. And then they started this whole culture of performances, and they would watch all the Greek plays translated into Roman plays. So everybody would act, and then they would, produce plays, and people would come and watch. So that's what the Romans did, and they did it for many years, guys. And that's why the Roman theaters became very, very famous. Anybody who's been to Rome and has been to the Colosseum? If not, you've seen the photograph of the Colosseum. So that was one of the places which gives you a proper architectural reference of how a Roman theater would look like. They would be small, but the audience would be seated like in gallery or in an arena mode. So that's what the Romans did. And when that was happening, let me just go back to the screen. The church came in, okay? Christianity. How many of you know the history of Christianity? So before the Christians came in, they were pagans, right? And when the Christians came in, they were like, oh, no, you cannot do these nonsensical performances, for public in an enclosed place. Sorry, you have to get out. So they were like, no, you can't do these obscene satirical plays over here. You have to do something which is godly and not ungodly. So when the Christians came in, they banned everything, every kind of entertainment with regard to performances or theater performances in and around the church area. Because they wanted purity and they wanted people to do absolutely ethical things. Show stories of Jesus, show stories of people doing good, of kindness and everything. But if you look at theater talks about everybody, right? So the people who didn't want to do all those kind plays and ethical plays, they went out. They kind of booked or created theater on wheels. Now here you can watch, this is a stage, and here all the actors are playing on the stage. They're actually playing the birth of Jesus over here, if you can see. So the stories would move around Jesus, but they could show something else. Yeah, it's like a chariot. Yeah, it's like a chariot. So they would tweak the story, but they would still stay in and around Jesus's stories, because that's what was the demand of the land. So they couldn't go against it, otherwise they will be punished. So this is what happened. They took to the streets and they started performing on the streets. Now, when we talk about that, let's come to the 14th and 16th century nose theater. How many of you have been to Japan or have any idea of nose theater, of Japanese theater? One common thing again over there is mask, but here the mask is not a mask. It's makeup. So they completely do up their face, and it becomes like a mask. So nose theater was happening in 16th, 17th century in Japan, and they would talk, Okay, Dash is saying, let me unmute. I'm sorry, Dash, we can't let you unmute right now, but there will be a point where we will. So don't worry about that, okay? So when we go to nose theater, this is how it would look, okay? So this is how it would look. This is again, these are again the musicians. And also I forgot to tell you that in Roman theater, like in Greek theater we had the chorus. In Roman theater, they replaced the chorus and they brought in musicians. And that was something, that was a tradition that many people followed and copied afterwards. And nose theater is one of them. So where you can see these musicians sitting at the back, and they are all the singers who are sitting. And these are the actors who are acting. And mind you, no women could act. So over here, all the actors were men. Even if the actors were playing women's roles, they would be men playing women. Now, let's come to Italy's almost similar time. We were looking at Commedia dell'arte, and here again, you can see half masks, okay? Now, we could do an entire workshop on Commedia and the different masks and the different archetypes and the different stereotypical characters that people would play. So this would, we can do an entire, 1-2 hour presentation on that, or a workshop on that rather. But they would use half masks and full masks. Here you could see people using half masks. Then there would be stock character masks. Let me stop sharing over here and let me ask you guys, what are the stock characters that you see usually in plays and movies? Anybody? Please start typing. I'm telling you, this is an interactive session. If you don't interact, I cannot go ahead. So any stock character.
Ma'am, may I request everybody to chat in the public? These questions that she's asking, please don't write to her privately.
Yes, because only I can see. Please chat in the public.
And please stick to only questions that she's asking. No other private chats, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. Okay, so any stock character that comes to your mind? Anybody? Akshat, Anika, Charu, Monica, Prodipto, Sanvi, Romeo. Okay, what kind of a character is Romeo? Samira. Samira just said Romeo. Samira, please chat to everybody, to everyone, directed to everyone. A stock character could be a character who is evil, right? Evil characters are stock characters. Then one could be a jester, stock character again. A romantic hero, stock character. Don't give me character names. Tell me what a stock character could be, an archetype. Thanos is a stock character, yes. But Thanos is difficult because right now, when we look at today's film and theater, it's very mixed. We don't do stock characters anymore. But if you had seen films which were, which used to be produced earlier, or any, old Hindi film or an English film, you would see there would be stock characters. A person who would be just doing comedy, a person who would be just, doing motherly roles and always crying, and a character who kind of invokes a lot of pity. A friend who gives trouble. Yes, Dash, a friend who keeps irritating you all the time. So these are stock characters that people would play with. And there would be around 10 to 12 stock characters. And these are the half masks of the stock characters that people would play. So the old man is a stock character. Damsel in distress, yes, Tuti, a stock character, very good. Then a sad woman over here, probably, an angry man over here, probably. So all these are stock characters that were played in the Commedia style of theater. Now let's enter the English Renaissance theater, and here we talk about this man. Who is this man sitting? Anybody? Who is this man? Yeah, Shaurya, you're right. Shakespeare. Shakespeare is here. Now, Shakespeare was a big, big name, not just after his death, but also when he was practicing. So 16th century English theatre I mean, 16th century in England was a time when there were a lot of wars going on, right? The Wars of the Roses and then of the Tudors, and there would be a lot of plays that were produced by the royalty. They would be commissioned, and Shakespeare, like other playwrights, was commissioned to write plays for the royals. So he did a lot of commissioned work, but the greatness of Shakespeare is that definitely language, and also after that he combined stories of the masses and also spoke about stature and status in his plays. So that makes Shakespeare a great man. Anyway, so let's come back to 16th century England theatre, and let me show you an all men's performance at the Globe, which was recently done in 2014. But what you'll see right now is are all men actors, and they are using the costumes which are hand sewn, just like they would have in the 16th century. The makeup, which is organic, just like they would have in the 16th century. I'm going to show you a short clip from 12th Night at the Globe. So just hold on, I'm sharing my video. And this is how 12th Night would look like.
Wit, and be thy will, put me into good fooling. Those wits that think they have thee do very oft prove fools, and I, that am sure I lack thee, may pass for a wise man. But what says Quinapolus? Better a witty fool than a foolish wit. God bless thee, lady.
Take the fool away.
Do you not hear, fellows? Take away the lady.
Go to, you're a dry fool. I'll no more of you. Besides, you grow dishonest.
Two faults, Madonna, that drink and good counsel will amend. For give the dry fool drink, then is the fool not dry, and bid the dishonest man mend himself. If he mend, he is no longer dishonest. If he cannot, let the butcher mend him. Anything that's mended is but patched. Virtue that transgresses is but patched with sin, and sin that amends is but patched with virtue.
All right. So what you saw was a performance at the Globe Theatre. Anybody who's been to the Globe Theatre before? Anyone who's been to the Globe Theatre before? So at the Globe, there would be standing stalls and the gallery where people would sit. Okay, so this was a performance. All were men, even that lady. And we was looking at a 12th Night, so that was Lady Olivia. And Olivia was basically played by Mark Rylance, the then artistic director of the Globe. And Mark Rylance also played the giant in the BFG, if you've watched BFG. He is a great Shakespearean actor, has done a lot of films, a lot of stage plays, and they're all very, very famous actors and actresses who have played at the Globe. Right now, actresses are allowed, and this happened most probably in the 18th century, when female actors would come and start performing. But before that, it was only male and nobody else. So if you go back to Shakespeare, when that was happening, the French guys over here in the 17th century were looking at neoclassical theater. Now, neoclassical is new classical theater, right? So if you look here, women are also This is a woman. And that had started in France, okay, 17th to 18th century. When they were doing plays, women would perform alongside as well. Now, why did the French have to bring in a neoclassicism or new classical theater? Because they were really sick and tired of, grand costumes and only one kind of storytelling, stock storytelling or stock characters again. So they thought maybe we'll bring in a little bit of realism, a little bit of real people, a little bit of real emotions. And that's what they started doing. They started introducing complicated characters who were not stock. Because when you saw the Globe Theatre performance, you saw a fool, right? So a fool is also a stock character, who would be the person who talks wit and also does a lot of comedy. So what happened then was, the French thought, let us do something different. And when they were thinking, let us do something different, somebody else right across the Atlantic was also thinking. So theater had started in America. Okay, and what they would do is they would take all the European plays and just copy it and stage it over there. So they would take the best of comedies and tragedies, and that's how you start actually. And copying is not a bad thing. That's how you actually start learning anything, is by copying. So they started doing that, and American theater came into being. Then we entered the 19th century, which is modern realism. And here people started doing proper realistic theater. These are the greats. And there are lots of funny and very interesting stories about these men. So this is George II in Germany, and he was the first person to bring in real theater. And how he brought in real theater is that he borrowed props, he borrowed furniture from his friends, and he put everything on the stage to make the stage look like a real space. Then we have George Bernard Shaw of England. He was a realistic playwright. Then we have Chekhov from Russia. We have Antoine from France. Then we have Stanislavski from Russia again. And then we have Emile Zola from France, who all talked about naturalism. So we'll come to realism and naturalism later on. Yeah, so the four walls set, they would call it a clock. I'm just going to stop sharing over here. Yeah, so in the modern realistic theater, people really went berserk with what they could do with realism or realistic theater. So there was this, I talked about George, right, from Germany. What he did, he wanted to do a play on butchers, and he wanted to recreate a butcher shop. So what he did, he actually went to the butcher and he bought pounds of meat and he hung those meat all around, on the stage. And it was stinking bad. We all know how it stinks, right? So it was stinking meat hung on the stage, and actors are performing over there. So that's how crazy he went, to the extent of bringing real things onto stage. But the father of realism, whom we know, many of you might know him, is Henrik Ibsen. So Ibsen spoke of stories with a lot of realism, lot of things that actually are complicated and complex, like relationships. He was the first person to talk about how women actually feel, when they're married and they're stuck in a marriage, how men feel when they're growing old, how people with integrity feel when there is a lot of nonsense happening around them, a lot of corruption is happening around them. So he has written few of the best plays that are still being performed. Henrik Ibsen, you can look him up on on internet. One of his most famous plays is Doll's House. There's also Enemy of the People, and then we also he also has has impacted a lot of playwrights and playmakers all over the world. One of them was Stanislavski, and Chekhov, and they actually used to produce plays written by Henrik Ibsen in Russia. So realism came in, and everybody started talking like real people. So there was no stock characters doing stock kind of acting, but or exaggerated acting, but they were doing very realistic acting. And they would go deeper into the human psychology and try to understand, why do we respond the way we respond? Why do we react the way we react? So Stanislavski studied about acting, how people react, how people respond. Why do people speak the way they speak? And then he came up with his 3 very famous books on acting. Building a character, The Actor Prepares, and Creating a Role. These 3 books actually have been helping actors around the world till date. Even I have them on my shelf, to build characters and to be truthful and play a real character rather than a stock character or an exaggerated character. So next time when you're doing a play in school, make sure that you are exaggerating only when it is required, and not doing it just because you're doing a play, or that you're doing a genre which is stock, which is classical and not realistic. So let me move on and let us look at our presentation again. Real acting, as I was saying, these are some of the gestures that are very different from the stock gestures that the stock artists were doing, the stock characters would do. Gesture is the direct agent of the heart, and this is also a basis of your performance. So if you're not feeling it in your heart, then the gesture is meaningless. So no extra articulation of your body or your face if it is not saying what's there in your heart. So very, very important to understand gesture over here, because slowly things become very detailed and minute. This is what Stanislavski's set looked like. You can see the real set over here. It's not exaggerated, not ornate at all. You can see real props over here. He's using a pistol over here, and people are not exaggerating. Now here we are going to talk about other theater greats. I don't know if you have heard of them, but let me just tell you, this is Brechtian play. Bertolt Brecht was a very famous political playwright who wrote during the times of the war, the Second World War, and he got exiled. He fled from Germany, but then he wrote a lot of plays which would talk about the oppression that people went through when Germany was at war. So a lot of his plays are very, very famous, and we could do another episode on just Brecht's plays and why they're so famous. Now this, I'll show you a little scene from this play. This is where we enter existentialism. I don't know how many of you understand this word. If you do write on the chat. Existentialism. It was talked. I mean, after the entire war thing happened, you know, there's something called the theater of absurd that came into being. Now, what happens when a war happens in your country? Can you imagine how things would change if there would be a war in India? What do you think will happen? Anybody? I mean, would we go to theaters to watch? Everything will be destroyed. Yes. How would we feel? People who have survived, what would go on in our minds? Anybody? Anybody? How would we feel? What would go on after a war in our minds? We would feel very sad. We would feel devastated. We will find that everything is meaningless, right? And existentialism was actually that. Existential questioned, why are we living? You know, what is the meaning of all this? And from there came theater of the absurd, where everything was like absurd. It was just happening and there was no meaning. We were going nowhere. And Mr. Samuel Beckett, he was an Irish playwright. So Mr. Beckett was, and he wrote in French. So he was somebody who wrote, who is one of the, great playwrights who wrote for the Theatre of Absurd. And one of his famous plays is Waiting for Godot, if you have heard about it anywhere. So I'm just typing this on the chat. So this is Waiting for Godot, and I'm going to show you a little scene from there. Okay. If anybody has watched this play, good, but it's, I mean, you don't understand Theatre of the Absurd in the beginning because it's all absurd. Let's watch.
Say, I am happy. I am happy. So am I. So am I. We are happy. We are happy. What do we do now that we're happy? You should have been a poet.
Oh, I was, isn't that obvious? Que voulez-vous?
I beg your pardon?
Que voulez-vous?
Ah!
Que voulez-vous?
Exactly. How does it fit me?
How would I know?
Well, that passed the time.
It would have passed in any case.
All right. So that was a bunch of scenes from the play called Waiting for Godot, written by Samuel Beckett. And there were two very famous actors. I don't know if you know them. They were playing the roles, the two main protagonist roles in Waiting for Godot. So that happened, and Theatre of Absurd came in. We still practice Theatre of Absurd, and Waiting for Godot is still one of the most famous plays written in the genre. Let's look at modern Indian theatre, which does not look that very modern. These are all black and white photographs, but we still have very good playwrights like Abhishek Majumdar and Mahesh Dattani, who are contemporary playwrights right now, but whom we see here are Girish Karnad, Satyadev Dubey, Vijay Tendulkar, Badal Sarkar, and Ibrahim Al-Qazi, the person who founded the National School of Drama. All of them were amazing authors. Their works are still being produced. I performed for one of the plays written by Girish Karnad, called Bali, and people still perform their plays till date. This is my guru. This is Haisnam Kanhailal. He was Padma Bhushan, and this is Shabitri Devi, and they are from Manipur. And this is Manipuri theatre, And they use a lot of physical action over here. And this is their traditional theater, physical form, which is called Tantra, which they use to create this kind of performance. Now, can you see something which is very close to what we saw in the beginning of our presentation? Can anybody look at, guess what is common between a scene that we saw way in the beginning of the presentation? Anyone? What do you see over here? These little actors, young actors over here, they're forming a chorus, guys. So this Greek structure is still prevalent today. And we still borrow ideas from the ancient versions to perform. So if you see here, this is the Greek chorus. But they are not wearing masks. Very good. They're expressing emotions. Very nice. So what is modern theater? Modern theater, or any form of new theater that you guys are going to do later after us, is borrowing from the past and making it your own. So they did not need any more masks because we were free to show our faces. We were not anymore embarrassed that we are actors. But remember, when people were acting in the 7th century, in the 8th century, when they were acting in the 16th century, acting was not a great profession. People would be looked down upon if you were an actor. But things have changed now. We can show our faces. Girls can act. We have all ladies theater productions also. So we have moved a long way, guys. And I think we are in a position where we can do a lot more than what was done. And still we carry the history along with us. So with that, I end my presentation. We still have around 13 minutes that we can dedicate into question and answer. And we are just 30 of us. So Emmanuel, is it all right if we kind of open this discussion right now?
Yeah. So I'm just going to unmute everybody and also turn on the cameras. So
yes, please. That'll be great. I would love to see.
Yeah. Miss Mansi. Yes.
Great. Can you remove me from the spotlight?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Miss Mansi.
All right.
All right. Yeah. So if we have the rest of the children also joining us, please switch on your cameras. And this is your time that if you have any queries, anything related to theater, any questions, any information you need, you can ask, ma'am.
Hi, it's so nice to put a face to your names, Akshat, Samira.
Yeah.
And Samira has been really vocal and she's been communicating with me privately. But now she was, I think you didn't understand that you were chatting just with me, right, Samira? Yeah.
I was chatting with you and I understood it.
Okay, all right. Dash, hi Dash. You were really, really active on the chat. Thank you. Anybody else who would like to come? Stuti, I also heard Stuti.
Shaurya, even Shaurya can come up.
Even Shaurya can come.
And I'll request everybody to turn on the cameras after some time so that we can take a group photograph.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Thank you.
That'll be great. Oh, there's Aradhya. And we have Shaurya. Great. Okay. So shoot your questions, guys. Any question that you have? No questions. Okay.
I don't really know if I should ask this, but could you act something for us?
Oh, you know what? I was actually thinking. I was just thinking. I'll not act, but I will definitely try and express. I'm sorry about this kajal spreading. This is something that happens with me all the time. But this also gives me a nice look, you know. All right. So in Natya Shastra, there's something that's called eyebrow movements. Okay, we all can try this. Do you want to try that? Let's all try eyebrow movements. Okay. Anybody who would like to come on screen, please come on screen so that I can see you. All right. Now for this, you have to remove your specs. I have removed my specs. Taha, if you can remove your specs, one, so that I can see your eyebrows. There you go. Very prominent ones. Everybody has very prominent eyebrows. Good. Now, raised eyebrows. Raise it, everyone. Lowered eyebrows. Crooked eyebrows. Round eyebrows. Okay. Very good. Very good. Now you can tell me what you feel when you see this. You have to just look at me, okay? Anybody? What do you think I'm feeling? No. Say it. Unmute and say. We are all on.
Yeah, you can all unmute.
Disgusted.
You feel disgusted after looking at Vaishali ma'am. What do you feel?
Disgusted.
You feel disgusted? Stuti, Samaira, Aradhya?
Confusion.
You feel confused?
Do you think I'm confused?
Self-conscious. Like weirded out.
Okay, now. Okay, now what we're going to do is, Emmanuel, can you spotlight me and Mansi? Just spotlight me and Mansi. Can you do that? Yeah, so I'm spotlit and Mansi as well. Okay, so Mansi will do a lowered eyebrow and I'll do a raised eyebrow. Okay, Mansi? Let's do it. Let's see. What do you think is happening, guys?
Surprised.
I'm surprised. And what is the scene? What is the context? Put a context. Give a story quickly.
You're surprised to see her sad.
No, you are surprised that she is feeling disgusted. She saw something disgusted because she never saw something like that.
Anything else? Any other story?
She is scared of you.
Thank you. Now let's do the other thing. Let's do the opposite. Mansi, you raised eyebrow and I lowered eyebrow, okay?
Okay.
You are the teacher. Like you're scared. She is the...
Now
You have the staring contest.
Now it looks like Mansi ma'am is really angry and you're the one scared.
Yeah.
See, we are doing nothing. We are just moving our eyebrows. Okay, thank you, Emmanuel. Just bring us back. Okay, so we are actually doing nothing. We are just playing with our eyebrows. So in acting, it is not about, or it's not always about expressing. Yeah. Yes, we can create different kind of expressions just by moving our eyebrows. Right? And there are 9 kind of movements, 9 movements of eyebrows. There are 9 movements of eyeballs. Right? So it's very, very exciting. I mean, it's exciting for me. It's a very interesting form of practicing theater. And I think all of us should be proud that we are Indians because we have it in our genes. We can actually do it without being taught. And it's already there with us. Now, see, Akshat is raising one of his eyebrows. That's something which is very unique. I can't do that. But those who can do that, that means, oh, you are skeptical. So I can also move my muscles over here under my eye, and I can also, look skeptical. So it's all about muscle movement. Anything that you would like to discuss? What did you think of the entire journey of theater through the centuries? How does that make you feel, Akshat, or Aradhya, or Taha, or Samaira?
It's just like
fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's amazing, like, how history evolved from a cave painting to what it's right now with all the props and stuff. So it's kind of like,
Yeah. And all of us love acting on stage, right, Akshat?
Yes, ma'am.
So how does this change your view of actors on stage when you see them now?
Like before, when it was the time of Greeks, they used to kill the actors who don't
You're
like
safe
remember
now.
their lines.
Mansi ma'am is not going to kill you.
But now the thing is not that. Like if we forget the lines, we can still improvise a bit and then make it fun like it was, and we can bring back to the context.
You can bring it back to the context. But if you're actually doing professional theater, you're not allowed to do that. You still cannot improvise when you're doing professional work. You will be.
But we won't will be killed.
It's okay. That's your choice. If you want to do professional theater or not, but you will not get killed. But you'll feel like you're dead. Yeah. So it'll be like that. Yes, Anika, now you're back. Anika, what do you think? How does it make you feel now that you've known that there's so much behind theater? It's not just, happening today. It has been happening for generations and generations.
I think it's really fascinating. I didn't actually know that there is so much history and so much tradition and culture around theater. I would have never imagined about theater in our own country, forget the entire world, and how it evolved is something so great and so fascinating. And it's like theater is a reflection of our own society. It's exactly our own actions, just in a different way, just in a different story, in different ways of telling something.
Absolutely. That's so well put.
When you look at comedy plays, that's basically just addressing the problems in our world in a funny way. So
right. Also, the satire plays would be the ones which actually talk about the
real problems,
the intolerance and all that nonsense that's happening all around us, but in a fun way. Taha, you have not spoken. What do you think?
I think it's very nice.
Okay. Now that you've known so much, which would be the topic that you would like to go do a little bit more research on out of the entire presentation that you saw today? Which was the topic that really caught your attention, guys? Anybody? We still have mythology. So you'll go and start looking up a little bit on myth and ritual theater. Good. All right. What would you do, Akshay?
I'm not like saying that. Like in the things that you've shown us, like I would love if somebody created something that was a mixture of like mythology and cave paintings, a story. Like it's very fascinating to see.
Aradha, that's a brilliant idea. Why don't you do something? You have a group of friends over here who are equally interested in arts and theater. Try, please, go ahead. That's how modern theater will come in, right? That is how we will take the tradition of theater ahead. Somebody is writing in the chat. Hold on, let me just read that. Pradipto, can you please switch on your camera? I think you have been interacting pretty well throughout. It'll be good to see you. Pradipto is saying that she is going to look at Indian art forms. And Vernika, thank you, ma'am, for an amazing session. Thank you, Vernika. Yes, I have another message. Oh, bandwidth is low. So Pradipto is saying that he will research on Indian art forms. That's good. What else?
Ma'am, I would research about ancient theatre.
Ancient theatre in the sense like ancient or Roman ancient?
Like how it started and somewhat how they started theatre.
Very good. So you're going to Africa then. Good. I'll be waiting for your research paper to come out. Anika, what would you research on?
I will probably research a little more on realism and how it actually came into theatre, or how it actually evolved into what we see today as theatre.
Great. Good. I mean, all the best for that. Do let me know once you have done your research. I would love to see it. Samaira and Taha, what would you research on?
Probably research on the Greek mythology, as I do.
Greek mythology. And Taha?
And I would Greek mythology and like what exactly they thought and what exactly they believed, like what they could do and like that.
The amazing thing, the most amazing thing about arts is that you're allowed to copy. Okay. It's not a bad thing to copy. And no idea is original, guys. Shakespeare copied, The Romans copied, the Greeks copied, we copied, everybody copies. Okay, but we start there and then we build our own thing. Okay, so if you want to start something, a project, just like Aradhya said, I would say that start copying first. Okay, look at cave painting, see what stories they're saying, and then bring in the masks, and then bring in realism, and then bring in chorus, then bring in some music. It will be amazing, Aradhya, I'm telling you. All right, superstitions. Samira wants to do a research on superstitions. That's good, Samira. Kali billi rasta kaat ke gayi kyun? So we can do a research on that. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and patience. All of you were such kind audience members to sit through and also interact. Thank you to Emmanuel and Mansi for having me over here. It's such a blessing to be with children every time. Thank you.
And I would also like to say such a big thank you to you, because you actually sowed the seeds in their mind. We just got a very current response of what these kids, what intrigued them and what they really want to learn. Learning happens like this. If you're really pulled and interested in something, you will go on to research or finding something new about that. So thank you so much. And I really like this line which you shared, Vaishali, was that borrowing will happen from past, but how we adapt and make it our own is what we have to look now. So like theater, it's changing phase. Even these kids, when they grow up, theater will have a different definition. It will have an altogether a new look. And I think it's a very good platform for all of these interested students to come, get enriched and learn so much from people like you. Thank you so much.
And then we'll be very old and we'll come to watch you perform, and you guys can perform well, and all my blessings and our blessings will be with you. So good.
And who knows, Vaishali will be sitting as an audience one day while watching you all on stage.
All right.
All right. And I would also like to pass on a big thanks to the school authorities, Madam Principal, the admin and the IT team, the program leader, the class teachers who have allowed the children to come and attend this session. As always, Mr. Emmanuel, the whole of Performing Arts Department to be there as a backup support and ensure for a very smooth and a trouble-free session. Finally, and not the least, I would like to thank all the students who have come for this workshop, because without you, this was just not possible. So with this, we come to the closure of the session, and I hope you had great fun, great learnings, and wish you all a good day and stay healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And just to add, we want to give a special thanks to Mr. Lanu Yadan, the Vice Principal of Mount Carmel School, for giving us technical assistance for today.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Vaishali.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.